Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shrink Chats. I'm Monica Burton.
And I'm Annette Reiter, and we're here with a great guest, James Harris, Men to Hill. Tell us a little bit more about your movement, what got you started, and how women like us can help the men we love in our lives, our dads, our uncles, our sons, our partners. Help us out.
Clients.
Yeah, so how you guys doing? I'm James Harris. I'm located in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a father. I am a entrepreneur, a veteran, and a student of life. And as recently as April, I became an author of a book called Man Just Express Yourself, which is available Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, Target, Walmart, and of course my website, men2heal.com. So I founded a movement called Men to Heal 2 years ago, which focuses on men's overall wellness, their mental health as well as their physical health. And I did this because there was a lot of reluctancy for men to not only go to the doctor, for preventative measures such as early detection, getting physicals yearly and stuff like that within my immediate circle. So I started to branch out and think on a macro level how this impact men.
Mm-hmm.
And surely enough, I found that it did. A lot of men weren't going to the doctor, weren't getting physicals, weren't taking medicines if they were prescribed, involved in reckless behavior and stuff like that. And seeing a therapist was far from that equation as well. So put together the movement and it took off immediately, with the support of course, women, men themselves who were looking for outlets, but wasn't a lot. Um, and of course, different organizations reaching out for insight and stuff like that. So I've just been in a fortunate position to be able to give back in that way.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what you speak in that male voice, not just your voice, but in your even in writing. And I think that appeals to men to hear this from a man. I know I've for
Sure.
years I've referred people to the book Terrence Real's book, I Don't Want to Talk About It, which
Yeah.
was, really based on men and how they don't talk about things. And so your title, Man, Just Express Yourself, resonates with me that
Sure. Yeah.
certainly I think we all know men in our world that we're begging them to go to the doctor. You're begging your dad to go to the doctor. You're begging your husband to go to the doctor. And maybe this is how we've become labeled sometimes as kind of nagging as women because we're like pushing, pushing, pushing. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what it is. So the movement itself not only assists men to relieve their internal issues, but of course, it assists them to get insight and gain perspective from the people that they vicariously affect, such as their children, their partners, their co-workers, or teammates even. And the book is definitely a tool that women can use, especially the wives. They can purchase this book, give it to their husband. He do a couple different pages, give it back to the wife, and they exchange dialogue over dinner or at a date night and stuff like that. Because in any other setting, it might become, a cantankerous setting or she might meet resistance just based on not being able to allow him to express himself freely. Because if she just walk up to him and say, "Hey, tell me about your traumas or tell me about your feelings or your emotions," he probably view it as, "Oh, you're nagging or you overwhelming, you those type of things." But if she do this as an exercise to enhance their relationship, he might view it differently. It's so many different chapters in here
Mm-hmm.
that I decided to do when I was writing it. So it's probably over 65, but it's talking about affirmation, goals, trauma, mood, displacement, abandonment, grief, anger, substance use, coping skills, emotions. So those things are on guys' minds, but they don't typically talk about them because they don't have the outlets or they don't know who to express them to, or if it's even going to be received in a proper manner. So, as a wife or as a mom, this is a great tool for you to say, "Here," and let them just go. They can write out their answers or they can draw it out, and then just check on them, and then again, you guys can process it. Just imagine a 10-year-old uh, boy doing these assignments and he come back to it, next year or 2 years from now. He can see how much he's grown. He can see if he's still triggered by the same things. He can see where he needs to improve at and stuff like that. And of course, I already explained how it can benefit the husbands. Um, but because oftentimes like the wife would probably just want to know, like, oh man, I want to know what he's thinking, or how come he's
Mhm.
not opening up to me. But of course she can't say that because it may start an argument or create some type of conflict. So the book is definitely a great tool for you guys to process over dinner or something like that.
I think there's like two things. One, I got the book too, and the thing that I was impressed about is that anytime we have a way to kind of externalize what we're thinking on the inside, it's a good thing. And also, it's a way, like you're saying, that a couple can talk through things without one person coming up with all the questions or things to ask, and the other person in the heat of the moment trying to find an answer to something
Yeah.
that's really meaningful or powerful. So I think that that's one of the things that I think is such a valuable tool for men and, their partners in their lives. The other
I agree.
thing that I was curious about in your experience, there seems to be, at least in our culture, this notion that we want a man to like be a man and be strong and be, kind of stoic. And then at the same time, we want a man to be able to express himself. And I feel like there's this like mixed message,
Sure.
because when a man expresses himself, then, sometimes I think that makes, at least in a heterosexual relationship, it makes the woman uncomfortable. Well, why is he crying? I want him to be a man. And so it's like, what are some tools, or what are the things that you talk to men about when they feel like there's this mixed message out there?
So for the most part, though, I re-educate men on certain things, and one of those things happen to be the perception of others, because society got this view of what masculinity is, what a man should be, opposed to just viewing it as a case by case, situation. Like your family dynamic might be different than my family dynamic. And your resiliency level is different than my resiliency level because we all experience different things in different
Mhm.
settings and process them in different ways. Um, but I definitely think it should be more beneficial for a man to be able to come to his partner and say, "Hey, I'm experiencing this," or "I'm upset," because in most cases, men only display the negative emotions, you know what I mean, such as reckless behavior, anger, attitudes, irritability, opposed to those more comforting and nurturing emotions and behaviors, such as feeling sad, down, flat, stuff like that. So if it was a more nurturing environment, a more open environment to not demonize or cast make them feel less than if they do express themselves. It probably would happen more repeatedly and more nurturing, and we got to start with the younger man opposed, because with your partner now, it's probably too late. He's probably stuck in he's probably stuck in his ways because he's been told the same thing for a long period of time. But if it is a way that we can catch the younger guys, those elementary school or middle school guys, and let them know, like, hey, man, no, it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to be free. It's okay to be eclectic. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel your feelings. That's something that I often say. And we got to process them, but oftentimes we, push them to the side and say, nah, deal with it. It's okay. Somebody else went through it. You can do it. Those things are detrimental to his internal growth, and it stunts his emotional growth. And in reality, because he's stuck in that place of vulnerability that he's not able to release, and by the time he is married with children, what's he gonna do with it? He's been told for so long not to express those things. So now the cycle's repeated. His children are saying this. So his daughter, is now used to a man who don't express himself, or his son is learning to be a man who don't express himself. So we definitely have to ensure that we break in those cycles so we can prevent, certain things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a challenge, these roles. We've seen women in the military and how they're taking on balancing the roles of like, strength and power. And also, I'm a woman, so I might cry sometimes too. Like, it's okay. And I think we're starting to realize that, all genders can have all feelings and have all experiences. And maybe processed through different means, but we're seeing a balance of power like that a little bit more too.
Sure. And that's, again, it's such a misconception that certain things are gender specific, like even so I do private practice and I do community-based services. And I hear it all the time from especially athletes, he's 6'5", 227 pounds. I'm not depressed. That's for females. That's for cheerleaders. So when I break it down to what depression is and the symptomology of it, then he sits back and like, oh man, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a gender specific diagnosis. Anybody can be depressed. It doesn't. I think a lot of people still fear that they have the stigma of mental illness and mental health is the same thing. So that right there adds to the stigma. So mental health is pretty much your overall well-being. Your emotional, your physical, your mental connection. All that needs to be centered and balanced. So when I get these guys and I break it down to them that way, and I tell them basic terminology and symptomology of what they're experiencing, it's easier for me to re-educate them, and then we make changes together, opposed to them still denying basic things like, yo, you're going through depression. It's nothing wrong with that. You're human. Regardless if you're male or not, like you can have depression. It's no difference. So after that, they realize, all right, cool, let's figure out how we can treat it.
Did you see in the news a few weeks ago, there was I think it was an NFL player who came out and said his, a sibling or a family member had depression, and one of the sportscaster kind of like mocked it.
Yeah, I seen that. I posted on it. I posted it on my IG as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it was I want to say it was Dak Prescott, his brother or somebody within his family had completed suicide, and he went through a phase of depression, and a media personality, a broadcaster, pretty much called him weak and all this other stuff for expressing those things, saying he wasn't supposed to because he's this football player and people are looking up to him and all this other stuff. But him being vulnerable in that moment is actually helping more people than him holding it in and not processing those feelings, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any, I agree with you. Did you get any questions, or did any of your, the people that you work with, did they mention that story?
So the thing now with mental health is part of it is it's so trendy. We got athletes coming out, we got celebrities coming out, radio personalities and actresses and authors, and so it is more opening and welcome, which is a fortunate thing. But I'm hoping that it's not just a trend. I'm hoping that people actually want to receive help, and these people are actual advocates than just out seeking attention because it is a vulnerable space. But to answer your question, yes, when celebrities and athletes and prominent people make notion of their healing journey or different things that they're going through, it does make it more acceptable for the common person to realize like, oh man, I'm not Superman. This guy get millions of dollars and he just came out, so let me try to get help too. Or this guy, is a star player and he is open, let me open up too. So it does help in some cases. But again, hopefully these athletes and celebrities are in it for the right reasons and not just, trying to benefit from the glory of it, So hopefully we can continue to move forward with their advocacy and their platforms assisting in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so sad that when you finally have somebody do what that person did, step out and say this was really hard,
Mm-hmm.
that you get the shame critics and the blame critics and the finger pointing that are trying to like steer that person back into their box, and I need you to be a man like this, and this is how men are, or a woman like this, right? And it can really mess with people, and for that reason, sometimes it can maybe even be more challenging if you're famous, because goodness me, sometimes the responses I see on Facebook and stuff almost like send me into I'm not posting ever again.
Yeah, that can definitely add to the stigma and add to because, you know, with cancel culture and people just all over the place that don't even know you can easily demonize you with the stroke of a keyboard. And that can increase your symptomology as well, depending on where you are in your recovery process. So those things are important too, to at least limit or reduce your interaction and access to all these people having access to you, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So what about, what are some of the things, like if you had, so, you know, I told you before we started recording, I'm a mom of 2 boys. So what is some of your, I guess, best advice maybe you want to give some of the listeners that are listening in that have young children, not young, but that have maybe middle school, regarding, you know, men to heal and really taking care of your mental health and how, you know, we can help our young kids succeed?
I mean, we can help our young kids succeed by at least, you know, more platforms like this, more opportunities for them to see models of not only men, but of course, women embracing men who express themselves, who feel their feelings, who are open with being vulnerable and communicative in the most sense. Because now it's not a lot. I can remember growing up and there wasn't a lot of examples of that. Like I see clients now, men who are in their 40s and would tell you like, oh, I never heard a man tell me they love me. You know, so those things, like we can change those things now. We can embrace things. I know for me in my circle, like I'm 34, and for the better part of 10 or 15 years, all the guys in my circles, you know, before we hang up the phone or before we depart ways, we, hey, bro, love you, man. You know, we ensure that we do those things, and we ensure that it's uncomfortable for everybody else around us too, that they can say, oh man, that's dope. Like they love each other, and it's, you know, it's nothing wrong with that. You know, so we can continue to create those stigma ending characteristics within society by doing, you know, little subtle acts. You know, even embracing when your son falls or when your son wants to do something that's not considered manly. You know, I was in the grocery store, and I was I was in the grocery store, and I was on this aisle searching for a toy for my daughter, and this kid was probably, young man, he probably was, I'm just looking at him, he was around the same age as my daughter, which is 8. So you know, based on his size, he was probably 8 or 9 as well. But anyway, he wanted what appeared to be an easy bake oven or some type of microwave thing. And the mom literally was like, no, that's for girls. You don't need that. You can get something else. Let's get you a truck. Let's get you a whatever. So he began to, like, you know, a slight tantrum, like, no, I want to bake, I want to cook. So she was like, nah, that's, you know, you don't need that. So long story short, fast forward about 2 to 3 weeks later, I see the same lady in another, you know, food place, and she's with
Mm-hmm.
an older guy this time, and she's like, they was in it this time. They was in the food aisle, and he said, oh, what are you gonna get for dinner? And her reply was, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna cook anyway. You know, so in my mind, I'm like, man, I wanted to say, ma'am, you're the same person that told your 10-year-old or your 9-year-old son that he couldn't, you know, so just little things like that are repeating the cycle. That 10-year-old is now going to grow up to that person that she's potentially dating that don't want to cook, you know, because now he want to embrace it at that age, and it's, you know, such a turnoff. It can potentially, you know, cause that effect later on down the line. So we want to prevent and break as much cycles as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even just the color of some of the toys, they try to make things so gender specific in the color and market them specifically to
You know,
girls or boys. And it's kind of irritating. Like an oven, how is it easy bake oven a girl toy anyways? Like, I don't even know. Like, it just makes no sense.
it doesn't make sense at all. And realistically, like we have to know how to cook. You know, I think back in the day it was more so men are working, women are at home nurturing and doing those things. But roles are, I think roles are specific to your home. So you and your partner do what's best for you guys. Um, but for my household, it's, more nurturing and suited. But a lot of people don't know that pink was the original color for men, boys being born, but girls were born at a faster rate. So marketing wise, the toy company Hasbro and all them started to do that. They changed it
Oh,
to, more financially. It was a more financial thing for them to, market pink to
Of
females
course.
because they were born more rapidly.
Yeah. Money makes everything's decisions if we look back at it. Interesting. Hey, listen, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and also check James out in the same place. Thank you very much.
Chosen by leading interventionists, doctors, and therapists, Origin's nationally accredited world-renowned addiction treatment programs provide comprehensive care for adults, including those with serious psychiatric and medical disorders. Call 844-502-HOPE to speak confidentially with an expert, or visit us at originsrecovery.com to learn more.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really need
a good therapist.
And I kept searching.
and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
Thank you.
Monica Burton is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in St. Petersburg, Florida, with over 17 years of experience. Monica offers individual, family, and couples therapy, and during this time of COVID-19 is offering teletherapy. Monica invites you to check out her YouTube channel, where she offers great tips and advice on relationships, parenting, family health, resolving conflict, and coping with stress. Go to YouTube to find Monica Burton LMFT. There are new segments every Thursday. Or check out Monica's website at monicaburtonlmft.com.
What if you could train your brain to think healthier thoughts? Cope Notes uses daily text messages to help you do exactly that. All you need is a cell phone and a brain. To learn more and try it for yourself, visit www.copenotes.com.
welcome back, everyone, to our Shrink Chats episode with James and Men to Heal. Thank you for coming back, and thanks, James, again for being on our show. I forgot to say this at the beginning, but congratulations are in order. You just got engaged over the weekend.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I definitely did. And oh man, I was scared.
Yeah, I saw some of those pictures on your Instagram. So congratulations to you and your partner. That's very exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that, but I did check out your YouTube on making a stress ball with rice. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to have to make myself one of those because I'm constantly like picking with my fingernails all the time. But what kind of feedback have you gotten from like those types of activities? What are some other activities that can help people kind of put their stress outside of them a little bit so that they can get in touch with what's going on?
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up. So for those who are not familiar, I have a YouTube page called Men to Heal. And I break down different things, not only for men, but for pretty much everybody in a rightful perspective. So it's a video on trauma. It's a video on grief. It's a video on so many different videos that people aren't normally privy to, such as communication. I had interviewed a male victim of domestic violence. I just interviewed a father because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but we often hear it from the women, of course. And then October is also infant pregnancy and infant loss month. And we also have so many resources for women. So I was able to interview a father who lost his child to stillborn. So it's different videos on my platform like that. But the one, I also got a video on why men don't open up. So that's doing real well. And I got a trauma video, tough parenting conversation video, video on resiliency, deep breathing, healthy boundaries, and stuff like that. But specifically, the video you're talking about is do-it-yourself stress ball, in which I did with my daughter. So it's definitely an exercise that you can do with your clients or your children or your partner at a date night. So pretty much what you'll do is get some flour or rice. We use rice and a balloon, and just, talk through the process. For us, for making a video, it was more of we made the video. But normally when we're doing stuff like that, we're talking about, of course, our relationship, the parenting dynamic, her stuff in school and different things like that. But for you guys can pretty much talk about whatever you want to talk about. You guys can build whichever way you want to build, and exchange that dialogue, because it's an exercise that you can do as a couple, or of course as a parenting exercise. And now, like you said, it reduced with fidgetiness. It reduced with you being distracted and holding your attention and stuff like that, whether you're young or old. And of course, reduce your stress, being able to relax and calm you down, especially with everything going on now in society, with of course the COVID numbers, the trauma that's repeatedly being viewed in the news and stuff like that. So it's a beneficial tool that you guys can do together.
Yeah, I'd encourage people to listen and watch your video. It was great. It's fun to see you working with your daughter doing that. And I have always, felt like finding ways, I mean, especially since we are kind of talking about anger management and Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think that, finding another way to externalize that rather than just like think I have to get bold with it, right? And get in your face about it, like really kind of sit back with me and sit with my feelings. That's very helpful.
It is, yeah.
The rice has a nice sound to it too. That's an interesting, I like the rice idea inside of the balloon. It's a nice texture sound.
Yeah, and it's more of like for my daughter, my era, we grew up with the little hacky sack things, and people was kicking them and stuff like that. But of course, with her, it was foreign to her. So I was like, yeah, we'll use rice instead of flour because it still had that texture. So we was able to do that, and she had fun with it. And she actually, now viewing her in homeschool, I see her, holding and caressing her now and again. So it definitely is a great tool and a helpful tool for you guys to do with your partner or children, or if you're in the field, you definitely can do it with your clients as well.
So you have a place called the Healing Hub in Richmond, and it looks like, from what I read, that there's a lot of, it almost sounds like a wellness center for the underprivileged.
Sure, it's pretty much wraparound services, holistic services, if you will. So pretty much what I did was, so I'm an entrepreneur, pre-therapist, right? So I paused entrepreneurship to become a therapist. And with that, like before I even had a bachelor's, I had 2 properties and 2 profitable businesses. So I paused that, went back to school, got a bachelor's, fast track, got my master's, started my licensing process. Here we are. So now back into entrepreneurship. I got, 4 properties now, 5 profitable businesses, over 16 investments between North Carolina, Virginia, and up to the DC area. And one of those businesses is the Healing Hub. So the Healing Hub is just like what it sounds. So I do my outpatient there. I got a psychologist there. Pre-COVID, I had a massage therapist there, a Reiki therapist there, and I bring in different speakers. Every third Saturday, we fed the less fortunate, donated clothes and stuff like that. So the speakers I bring in during the week, there's also yoga and Zumba pre-COVID. But the different speakers were, talking about voter registration, restoration of rights, LGBTQ, first-time home buying, so many different topics, immigration laws and stuff like that. There's so many different topics that people from my area weren't privy to or didn't have access to. So what I did was pull together my own resources and funding and put it all under one roof, basically. It's 2,600 square feet, and that's what it is. So now I rarely go to the office because I'm doing my sessions virtually with my clients. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to get more innovative and more use of the space because it serves as a venue too. So now that we are opening back up, I'm planning to do some more stuff, probably run some groups and stuff like that, because it is enough space to do social distancing.
That's great. Do you feel like since the Black Lives Matter, the riots, this really upheaval in our world right now, have you been getting more clients who are seeking out mental health treatment, or have you noticed like a step back?
No, so for me personally, my personal individual caseload has always been steady and a waiting list and stuff like that, because I'm always marketing, branding, and I'm out there in the forefront as far as speaking and annoying people with mental health. So I'm always that referral go-to person. So I've been, mine has been consistent, but I can say, talking to different colleagues and viewing different things, people is now more readily available seeking out services. Just the process, which is a good thing, so I would say there is an increase of people that I know who are doing services. Their caseloads are a little bit more fuller now, and they have a probably a waiting list in some cases too. So it is more people willing to reach out and get these services.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say that we're noticing similarly that in Florida that, both of our practices are pretty full. And when we talk to our colleagues, it's similar. It's hard to really, for me, to lay the finger down on which one it is, but it's, the pandemic, the politics, a lot of stuff is, virtual school parents are really struggling, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the other reason why I mentioned the Healing Hub is because it looked like on your website too that you had, like, in your earlier years, you had been in treatment and you felt like there still wasn't this like connection. Sure. And so it's like there were therapists who maybe didn't understand where you were coming from, and it sounds like you have been able to create a venue where people can go and really connect to others. And so that's why I just wanted to mention it as well.
Yeah, I mean, my personal journey was an interesting one. And in some cases, people who met with the same journey would probably just be turned off by therapy and wouldn't want to try it again. But what you're speaking of is, so I was awarded a state in foster care and group home, and I emancipated myself at 16. But being awarded the state, therapy was mandatory weekly. And for me, it wasn't a good experience because it could have been me. I was this young, stubborn kid from the projects. But I would say culturally, it was more of why I was so reluctant and resistant to the process. Because to be honest with you, it was this older white man doing Hollywood therapy, which was, hey, sit on the couch, tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets. And for me, I'm like, yo, how's this happening? Why am I here? Can you don't even know me, so it was a poor experience. Fast forward many years later, Army, 8 years, 2 deployments, one Iraq, one Afghanistan. Noticed I was different, tried therapy again, and then this time it was pretty much the same thing. It was an older white lady this time with no combat experience. And to be honest with you, part of that reason is why a lot of veterans don't go to therapy. They tend to like the groups more because you got that peer, you got that related shared experience opposed to just somebody who's working from a book, right? So that process again was a turn off to me because I wasn't obtaining as much as I could from the therapeutic process. So yeah, that pushed me to say, yo, you know what? I got to do this. I need to figure out a way to make this happen. And I did. I went to school, started my hours and stuff like that. And I can approach therapy from an empathy standpoint, providing sympathy, and as well as from a theoretical orientation standpoint with the education, and of course, the competence based on it. And, being from the culture, whether that's the age or the ethnicity or just being a man, so, and in most cases, those three are the primary reasons that people are turned off from it, because therapy is, to be honest with you, woman-dominated sector still. Even if you look at the labor statistics for jobs, it's still, plus 80% were women, and it's a short number of men, and then even shorter number of minority men. So, and of course, the LGBTQ community as well are lacking within that regard. So they have to find resources for themselves or groups for themselves and stuff like that, or find safe spaces to where they don't feel judged or don't feel that religion is going to come in place. So it's just so many different reasons why I was able to take off the way I did.
Yeah, I think Monica and I have both had that experience. I don't mean to speak for you, Monica, of just, sitting in the room with a lot of white therapists and realizing they don't really know how to talk to clients that have a very different world experience, and try to approach it from their very privileged way of like, hey, just tell me what's going on in a deep, dark, personal way now.
Yeah, and that can be to somebody like my experience, for example. Again, I was this young kid from the project, so we got this older white man in a bow tie, like overbearing, just grilling me, so it was already resistance there just from, man, you probably judging me, you probably can't relate because you're gonna drive off in your Benz and go to your big house, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna eat the next day, or trying to save my stuff because the people in the group home gonna try, what I mean? So it was so unrelatable. But now, again, like my perspective is different, and I ensure that I am being eclectic and innovative and authentically me, to where me and my clients can build a cohesive unit and a cohesive bond, and to make rapport building easier and faster, so we can get to those issues, faster than what the normal relationship tend to. So I've been fortunate in that regard.
I'm kind of struck thinking of, do you know Dr. Ken Hardy at all?
No.
You should look him up.
You're going to want to look him up. He's written a lot of brilliant articles, but he, one of his more famous articles was about being a male therapist, a Black male therapist, and how he got, he's in a private practice and he gets a young Black male to come in and see him. And the kid isn't opening up to him, and he's like, excited. And the kid's not opening up. And finally, the kid just looks at me and goes, I see the color, but I don't feel the vibe. And he realized that he had become exactly what he had been striving to become, a successful white male therapist. And he kind of had to relook at his work and how much he had kind of lost himself in the work.
And, and that happens a lot. And I don't know if you guys know how this visually, but for those who can't see, it's a shoe wall behind me and there's a shoe wall beside me and in front of me. So I am pretty much, like, my culture, my demographic here, I still blend in with who my target is, so I make them feel comfortable and relatable, because like, oh, Mr. Harris, you look like my uncle. My uncle got those shoes, or he dressed like that. Or you look like my dad, but you don't cuss. Or you look like, my brother, but you don't smell like weed. So those things, like, I've been so relatable in so many instances just by being me. And we can start the conversation immediately, opposed to so much resistance based on the perception of, you're gonna judge me, or you're gonna take my information and run with it. So I've just been fortunate in that regard.
I think it's always, I do think it's good to be to find, but I also think there's always a drawback to it also, right? Like, because then you're just stuck in likeness, right? Rather than the difference might create me to see it a little bit differently. And I was thinking, Johnny Crowder has the shoe wall too when we interviewed him from Cope Notes. He had a big
he's just a reference, James, in case you don't know him. This guy, he created a company called Cope Notes that sends text messages to your phone, one text message every day, but they're inspirational, they're uplifting, and they are meant to help with mental health. It's a great company.
Yeah, he's a rock singer, he sings. He's very famous. Anyone in there, you know, probably teenager knows him. So 15 to probably 25 knows him very well.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
But so, yeah, sometimes I think we have the idea that the therapist has to look like us to get us to know us. And I also know that, but what really helps is that they just get us, right?
The relationship helps.
They don't look like us and they don't act like us. If they just get us, it can be even more healing to be finally heard by somebody that you never thought could hear you, that you never knew could hear you. You know, I know for Monica and I, after Black Lives Matters, we attended a lot of groups and sat in and just kind of listened and just said, we hear you and we're so sorry and it's not right. And we want to be part of the solution with you. And we've had a lot of people come up to us and say I've never had a white person say that to me. So it was just nice to be a part of the healing process. And I think we all have to like listen to our vehicle that we're in and know it well and play our song, which, you know, we're two white girls, so we're stuck with that. We can't change that. Yeah.
But the fact of you guys being aware of that and you're willing to assist people is definitely beneficial because, and I'm sure you guys know, people in most cases just want to be validated. They just want to ensure that, you know, it's somebody out there, because like you guys are probably somewhere else. I'm in Virginia. It's somebody in Florida or Tennessee right now with those same experiences. They just want to know like they're not alone. So of course we just got to continue to create those platforms to have people have access to certain things and be open to the process of it all. So I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal and amazing.
Well, thank you. We think what you're doing is pretty amazing too, James. I'm glad that I stumbled across your, you know, Instagram. I don't even know when that was, but I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys support, and you know, of course, hopefully we can continue to assist more people together. So.
Yeah,
I just want to give you a little bit of warning, James. You know, your fiance can see this video with all those shoes, and then you started talking about all the other shoes.
Oh,
does she have a lot of shoes too?
Yeah.
Oh my!
That's part of her wall.
There you go. I see the high heels.
I saw some high heels in there. Okay, good. We got to respect the shoes on both sides of the gender lines.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, you know, I think that is it for today. I just want to say again, for those of you who are watching the YouTube, you can see the book, Man, Just Express Yourself. Again, this is a fabulous tool to use to help you start to talk through things, even if it's just for yourself, or like you were saying earlier, James, you and your partner or you and your kids. It's a good platform to start the conversation.
Yeah, and a lot of my colleagues, counseling friends who are in practice, they got a couple of them in that lobby. So when you know, clients come in, they pick them up and be flipping through it. They're intrigued even before a session. So I heard that so many times, like, oh man, I had a different plan on what we was gonna do in session, but they started talking about this chapter in your book, and now, you know, that's the direction we can go. So it's definitely a benefiting tool for, of course, therapists for that reason, and of course the child, or, you know, your husband, or of course any man in your life. So definitely you want to get that tool. You can get that Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target, Amazon, and on my website, www.mentoheal.com, mentoheal.com.
And as you're saying, you know, it's always good to ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with it.
We definitely got to do that, man. Fellas, feel your feelings, all of your feelings, not just the negative ones, the anger, the, you know, resistance and stuff like that, but feel the other ones as well and process them. That's most importantly.
And don't give up on therapy. Keep trying someone new. If they're not reaching you in the first few sessions, you move on, try somebody different. You never know where you might find that person that knows how to talk to you.
Yes, and you know, the therapy process is your process, so don't feel that you have to settle up on this first immediate therapy. Interview different therapies. therapists.
Mhm.
Most of them got free consultations. So find one that fits you and your need, and go from there. So
Right.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining us. Find James Harris and Men to Hill online. He's got an Instagram website. We'll put that all up on our Facebook website, Instagram accounts this week. We are going to be flooding the pages with Men to Hill and helping men express themselves.
definitely.
Very important work, James.
I definitely appreciate you guys. Continue the good work. And on my website, people can definitely just reach me from there. But most importantly, is a resource page on my website with different hotline numbers if somebody need it, whether that's crisis or suicide or veterans, homelessness, and different stuff like that. So feel free to go to the website, check out those hotlines. There's different articles on there as well. I did an article with Psychology Today talking about men in depression. So feel free to check that out. And of course, on my YouTube page, again, there's different videos that you probably can benefit from individually or as a collective. So definitely appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work, and I definitely see you guys.
Thank you, James. Thanks, everyone.